Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here I'm doing a dedicated audio review of the new Tesla Model 3, also known as the Highland. If you want a detailed review of the vehicle itself, make sure you check it up on your pop-up banner, down in the description below, or indeed in the pinned comments. Now, I would just like to mention that in the previous generation model, you used to have 8 speakers in the rear-wheel drive model and 15 speakers in the all-wheel drive model. Then Tesla actually removed a singular audio driver, presumably the tweeter that's found towards the front of the cabin, and this dropped it down to 7 and 14 speakers respectively. Now, if you want a review of that audio system, make sure you do check that on your pop-up banner as well. Now, in the new Highland model, you've actually got a 9-speaker configuration in the rear-wheel drive model and a 17-speaker audio system in the all-wheel drive model, which is on review. Now, I haven't got any detailed information from the manufacturer in terms of the wattage, the positioning, or the sizes of the drivers. However, going based on my previous audio review, and of course going around the cabin myself and listening back to music, I can try and give you a little bit of extra insight. Now, first off, at the front of the cabin, you have got 3 mid-range drivers, which are found within the dashboard. It's called the front cowl, and you have got one that is found within each of the extremities, and one towards the center. Then, for the front doors, each of them house 3 audio drivers, or it could actually be 4. I'll be touching upon why further down. Now here you have got a tweeter that is found towards the mirror triangle, mid-range drivers found towards the center portion of the door, and then a woofer found towards the bottom portion. As for the rear of the cabin, each of the rear doors have got a mid-range driver, and there's also a mid-range driver found within the rear parcel shelf. To complete the system, you have got 2 upward firing subwoofers that are found within the boot, and indeed over here they no longer reside towards the side. Now, the reason I'm not too sure about those 2 extra audio drivers, other than of course the subwoofer, which is pretty in plain sight in the boot, is because there is a small little bar that is positioned towards the headliner. It's between the front and rear occupants. Now, while I was playing back music, be it with or without the immersion slider, I didn't actually notice any sort of audio coming out from this speaker grill. And then when I was doing some call quality test, I also didn't notice any sort of difference in terms of my voice becoming louder or weaker if I was getting closer or further away from that little speaker grill. So therefore, if I look at the Tesla infographic, which has been provided on the manufacturer's website, you can actually see that there is a slightly different diagram towards the doors, which indicates that there is a dual driver design found towards the rear portion of the doors. In other words, the woofers also have got another driver that is residing next to them. Now, for you to tinker around with the audio drivers, you want to navigate on the 15.4-inch display, and here you've got balance and tone settings. I've left the balance in terms of its center position, and as for the tone, the subwoofer I've reduced by 2 notches, bass by 2 notches. I've left the entire mid-range frequency pretty much untouched, and as for the treble, I've added 1 notch. Then for the immersive slider, I've actually taken 1 notch off in terms of the standard mode preset. Now, of course, these are my own EQ settings, so make sure you share your own EQ settings down the comment section below, of course, if you have sat or indeed own the new Tesla Model 3. Now, I would like to point out that in terms of connectivity, it is actually quite disappointing. For those people who are not aware of Tesla's systems, there is no support for Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, be it over a wired or wireless connection. Now, you have got Bluetooth, but it is very disappointed to see that the SBC codec, which is the lowest quality codec that one can attain, is supported on the new Tesla Model 3. The reason I'm emphasizing this is because the older generation models supported the SBC and the AAC codec. Now, the latter isn't exactly all that much more impressive over the SBC codec, but is going to be a native codec that is used for iOS devices. In other words, anyone who has an iPhone. So it is surprising to see the AAC codec completely omitted altogether. It would have been great if Tesla had incorporated the aptX or even the LDAC codec, which is actually present on some rival alternatives. Now, you have, of course, got the built-in systems of the infotainment system. In other words, if you go for premium connectivity and pay £10 a month, you will find Spotify, Apple Music, and also Tidal, giving you high-res audio playback over a, let's say, wireless connection. But if you even want to go one step further, you might want to utilize the USB port that is found towards the glove box. And this is because you can play back FLAC files if you have got a formatted USB. Indeed, over here, audiophiles will be very much pleased to know that you can actually get the highest audio fidelity via USB. Although just bear in mind that if you do use that, your dashcam footage will no longer be saved to the USB because it will be formatted for you to be using it for music files. So just food for thought and something of a limitation that I thought I should point out in this audio review. because connecting up to the infotainment system and of course having the source is extremely important for you to get the best audio fidelity. So moving swiftly on, let's get onto cabin noise. And here the objective measurements that were recorded by myself using a sound meter will be on your screen. Now what I will say is that the previous generation model was actually really impressive, and here the new Highland model does improve it very slightly, but it's not exactly a night and day difference. In fact, comparing the actual objective measurements, it seems to be a bit of a downgrade, but I can say subjectively it does feel to be a little bit better. And I think that is in part due to the fact that Tesla has updated the suspension system, which makes it a little bit softer, and therefore when it comes to the overall rolling noise, or indeed when you're going over potholes or uneven terrain, the new Highland model just feels a little bit more serene. Now with that said, in comparison to some of the other electric vehicles, which granted are not exactly going to be directly comparable, for example the Tesla Model S Plaid with the active noise cancellation technology, the Genesis GV60 with the upgraded Bang & Olufsen system, or even the likes of the BMW iX1 with the Harman Kardon audio system, seem to do a slightly better job in terms of providing you an even quieter cabin. But the differences are still minimal, and in the grander scheme of things, the new Tesla Model 3 is absolutely fantastic in giving you a really quiet cabin. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get on to an audio demo. Now, I appreciate it's not going to be ideal over YouTube, specifically not using my microphones, but it'll give you a little bit of a taster. Make sure you check out the annotations on your screen to understand how the audio system is actually operating, and I'll be playing back a track which is from Priya J, and it's titled Like Me. So with the audio demo out of the way, let me get onto my subjective opinion. And here you have got that dual subwoofer design in the all-wheel drive model. And as a result means that the sub-bass extension can not only be heard, but also felt. It is actually a little bit overpowering in my opinion, and so much so that I actually reduced a few notches via the subwoofer EQ. Now, it's absolutely great to see that Tesla have actually upped the ante when it comes to the subwoofer, because it was arguably one of the weakest points per se of the older Tesla Model 3, which just felt a little bit lackluster in comparison to some of its key rivals, for example the BMW i4 or the Polestar 2. And it's great to see that indeed here the new Tesla Model 3 does give you plenty of low-end prowess. Now, I will say that if I'm comparing it to some flagship audio systems out there, for example, the BMW i7, which I appreciate is not exactly a vehicle that you'd compare to the new Tesla Model 3, it doesn't quite compete in terms of the overall quality. Yes, the quantity is there, but in terms of the overall refinement and that low-end extension into the lower echelons of the bass tones, it can't quite compete. Still, in the grander scheme of things, in its class, it's absolutely fantastic. Now similarly, the overall mid-bass impact has been done to perfection. Now I did reduce a few notches via the EQ because I did feel it was a little bit overpowering, and here the woofer drivers that are found within the front doors actually do a tremendous job, both in terms of quantity and quality. Be it when I was listening to challenging tracks from EDM, D&B or R&B songs, I just didn't feel like the system was struggling in the slightest. It just felt absolutely fantastic, and there was absolutely no rattle that could be heard throughout the cabin as well. Now, what really stands out for me, and something that I've really praised Tesla in the past for, is its overall mid-range. Yes, indeed, via the EQ, you might have seen that I didn't actually touch it, because it doesn't need it. It is absolutely phenomenal across the board. The lower mids and the upper mids do absolutely incredible job. Both female and male vocals will come to the foreground and just don't feel pushed back or recessed. You're getting absolutely fantastic accuracy as well, and therefore when comparing it to some of the flagship audio systems out there, the Tesla Model 3 really does go head to head with some of them. Again, it's not going to quite compete with the like of the Tesla Model S Plaid or, for example, the BMW i7, but in terms of its category, comparing it to the likes of the Polestar 2, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, the BYD Seal, or even the BMW i4, the Model 3 is absolutely incredible. Now, as for the highs, they extend really well at the front of the cabin. You're going to get that sort of toe-tapping feeling and feel pretty engaged with the music that you're consuming. However, the same couldn't be quite said about the rear of the cabin, where it just feels a little bit more lackluster, and that is due to the fact that you have not got any dedicated tweeters. Still, in the grander scheme of things, you've got those mid-range drivers that do really carry the sound very well. Now, as for its overall soundstage, this is another department where Tesla excels in, because in terms of having the immersive slider, you have got the ability to easily customize it, but nonetheless, you're still going to get an omnidirectional sound, be it at the front or rear of the cabin. Now, personally, I would suggest having one notch added to the immersive slider, and this is because you're still getting that reference sound while also getting a bit more of that engaging sound as well. Now, if you are to go on the standard mode preset, you might actually find that the sound is a little bit less accurate. In other words, it's going away from how the artist actually meant it to be reproduced. And if you go, for example, on the full immersive slider, you'll get a little bit more of that fishbowl effect, which is never appreciated, but will make you feel a little bit more like you're sat in a concert. Now, if you were to fully disable it, you won't get that omnidirectional sound, but get a little bit more of a reference sound. So it really depends as to what you prefer, but again, those are my own recommendations, so you can go based on what you see best if you're sat within the new Tesla Model 3. Now, ultimately, what I'm trying to say over here is that the audio system that's comprised within the new Tesla Model 3 all-wheel drive is absolutely sensational. Indeed, it goes one step further from the older generation model by incorporating 3 extra audio drivers, and comes in between the older generation Tesla Model 3 and the flagship Tesla Model S Plaid. As a result, it easily gets our Audio Excellence Award. Now, there is, of course, the entry-level rear-wheel drive model, which will still do well across the sound frequency range, but due to the omission of extra audio drivers means that you might not get that extra layer of immersion, or indeed that extra low-end umph. Still, it will do well across the board, and therefore is still a great entry point when it comes to audio systems in fully electric vehicles. But of course, if you're an audiophile, definitely consider the all-wheel drive model, because it really does up the ante. Now, I'd be curious to know what you make of the audio systems that are found within the new and older Tesla Model 3 down in the comment section below. And of course, if you have liked this video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. All of which are certainly appreciated and allows me to continue delivering honest reviews like this one. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.